Hey guys, this is Alex and thank you very much for stopping by. Really appreciate. Today I want to refactor the previous code that was related to calculating the factorial of a number, and I want to refactor to reflect a more Ruby way to do things. This will not be the final version because we'll be able to create a better version, a better algorithm, but this will be, in the middle of these two extremes probably. And yeah, let's go to the code and let's see what we can do. As you can see, I have this version, the previous version for that algorithm. And one thing that we are doing that I don't like that much is that I'm receiving this number, which in this case is 5. And throughout this code, you are changing that number. And this is something that's not that great because once you receive this number and you are changing that throughout your code, it's difficult to understand when you are changing that and why you are changing that. So usually you should keep the number with the original value. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to rename this factorial method for factorial version 1. And then I'm going to replace this method with the new main name. And then what happens is that I'm going to create this second version 2, that receives this number as an argument. And here you go. Perfect. Now, the next step is I will keep this code, this same code here, result receiving the number. And then I know that this result is 5. In this case is 5, because we are receiving the original value. And then the brilliant thing that Ruby provides us to, the brilliant way that Ruby provides us to work with arrays is that you can just say, hey Ruby, please go from 1 to the number minus 1, which in this case will be 4, 3, 2. This is great because you can just go from this number 5 until 1 just by doing this line of code. Amazing. And then you can just say, hey, please go from 1 to number minus 1, and for each iteration Ruby will calculate that number for you. So the first iteration will be 5 minus 1, 4. The second iteration will be 4 minus 1, 3. The next iteration will be 3 minus 1, 2. Next iteration will be 2 minus 1, 1. So that's great. And I can just call this method each. So Ruby, please go from 1 to this number for each iteration. And for each iteration, please, I'm going to call this item. And for each iteration, give me the item, the current value, because I'm gonna use that. I'm going to use that and say result will receive result. That's the same that we have here, right? So, but instead of using this number minus 1, this is already being calculated here. I can just say result being multiplied by item, which is great because now you are not controlling any local variable by yourself. This is being done automatically by Ruby. And what happens is that I have this result, which in this case will be 5. The first item here will be 4 because you enter this for loop expression calculating 5 minus 1. After that, 4 minus 1, 3 minus 1, and so on and so forth. And then I can just return result, and that's it. So that sounds that this is a good way to execute this. So let me check if everything is okay. That sounds okay. If I execute this, and here you go. So that's working. So notice that if you just print this value, the number value, let's say that I want to interpolate this number. This is the syntax, Ruby syntax to interpolate something in this string, and you can just print this out. If you print this, yes, here you go. As you can see, we are receiving 5, and then you finish the execution by having 5 which in this case you're not changing that variable, which in this case it should not be a variable, it should be just an argument that you're going to use throughout your code, but you're not changing that. So that's a good way to keep your variables like a constant, you know, that's easier to understand, easier to maintain, and you have a better code design. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you, and see you in the next video.